I know full well saying this is a bold statement, but I believe I've stumbled upon a unique and original idea for CEDH. I'd like to show you my Go-Shintai CEDH list today. Our game plan is really simple in concept. Establish a back-breaking asymmetrical stacks piece, break parity, and win through stacks. Our pieces in question are the Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale, Humility, Stony Silence, Torpor Orb, and Curse Totem. For a bit of extra redundancy, we've got Null Rod, Energy Flux, and Aura of Silence as well. So we have a reasonable amount of stacks that is going to be targeting all of those artifacts, all of those creatures, and all of those ETBs. But in addition to this, we've got Meltdown, Damned, Brotherhood's End, and Meathook Massacre to help us control the board. Most stacks decks are fairly criticized in that they don't have accessible and reliable win cons. We're going to be using Breach as the primary win condition for our deck, but it's got a few spicy additions. The first thing that makes this deck somewhat novel is that apart from our commander, this list is 100% creatureless. No polymorphing, 0 creatures in the 99. Our commander, Go-Shintai of Life's Origin, is a 4-mana 3/4 Shrine Enchantment creature, which generates a 1/1 Shrine creature token on ETB, and it has a tap ability to reanimate an enchantment from your graveyard for Wooburg. This gives us an additional avenue for us to tutor or redeploy those stacks enchantment pieces that we highlighted earlier. Our deck is actually somewhat commander agnostic though. You can make a case for Kenrith or Sisay as alternatives to Go-Shintai. With a bit of tweaking, you'd probably be able to form a similar list. Go-Shintai was chosen over these two due to the prevalence of activated abilities of creatures being pivotal to many tier 1 commanders. Kenrith and Sisay, for example, have much more flexibility in their activated abilities, which is a huge plus for them. Go-Shintai does have an activated ability, so all 3 commanders are nullified by Humility and Curse Totem, but in Go-Shintai's instance, the ability only serves to reanimate said Humility. To put it another way, it breaks parity functionally, even if the effect is symmetrical. Our win cons are the Breach package. In addition to this, we have Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, Tainted Pact, and Praetor's Grasp to steal our opponent's Thoracles. So that original idea I referred to at the start of the video, well, our use of Oath of Druids is what I was talking about. Let's take a look at the card. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses target player who controls more creatures than they do and is their opponent. The first player may reveal cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. If the first player does, that player puts that card onto the battlefield and all other cards revealed this way into their graveyard. So with this effect, firstly, it's a May. We can deploy this card with our opponent's Douthie Voidwalker or Rest in Peace on the board and not immediately exile our deck. We simply choose not to reveal cards. This only becomes actually problematic if we've got a polymorph deck in the pod. Additionally, your opponents will 100% of the time think you're the polymorph deck, and sometimes you'll manage to score a free win from people blowing their only mana for interaction on a Containment Priest or something like that. What this means is our opponents have to show us all of the action they'll take before the ability resolves. And even if they understand what's going on, we have redundancy. It may seem like a glass cannon, but it's actually quite resilient. Just stay with me. With Oath of Druids ability on the stack, we can set up our own protection spells at this point in time to see how things are going to go down this turn. Someone casts a silence in upkeep, we can just pass on the effect. Our opponents are going to have to fight us here where we have the information advantage. And don't forget that we can cast silence too. So once we get to the point where the effect resolves, we've demonstrated to our pod that we've got 0 creatures in the deck, and as such, our Breach has maximum fuel. We just need to put it back into our deck to draw, otherwise we will lose in draw step. After the effect resolves, we've got priority, so we use Memory's Journey or Turn the Earth while we're still in upkeep before our draw step to put cards onto the top of our library. Because both of these spells have flashback, we don't need them in our hand. This means that we've got 2 attempts at putting cards back into our deck, so we're not losing to a solo counterspell. The least protected win here only requires 3 mana. We just flashback Memory's Journey, put our Breach on top, and cast the Breach for the win in any number of ways. Adding the second cast with Turn the Earth, Silence, or Counter Magic is where it will become a bit more mana intensive, with 3, 5, or 6 mana. But this is much the same as any protected win con. It all comes down to the pod. You can absolutely win turn 2 with this combo by just having a Ramp Piece and Oath in your opener. If you have access to more mana, you can create piles that fight against interaction better too. Putting both Jace and Breach on top gives you the win with either one of them being drawn, but it lets you get an extra card and such an extra go. So that's the premise. We play a Humility, a Tabernacle, or a Null Rod, we find our Oath of Druids or Intuition, and we win in our next turn. Let's go over the individual card selections and I'll run through my thought process with some of them. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, is our only Planeswalker, being the worst version of Thoracle, but the only one that works through both Humility and our Oath combo. For sorceries, we've got Gamble, Imp Seal, Demonic Tutor, Praetor's Grasp, and Wargate for our tutors. We use Wargate as another way to get Oath of Druids onto the field a lot of the time, but even playing it for 0 and getting a Tabernacle or a Glacial Chasm is fantastic in a pinch. Gamble gives us additional utility as it's safe to grab a Loam or a Savine's Reclamation even when we're in an empty hand, but it's also fine for any enchantment if we have our commander out as well. We've got 3 Visits, Nature's Law, and Life from the Loam, which are our mana ramp and consistency with fetch land. We are trying to stay away from feeding Dockside after all. Dam, Meltdown, and Brotherhood's End are for wiping the board or destroying artifacts, and Savine's is part of our Breach and Intuition package. As far as instants go, we've got all of the tutors and interaction you'd expect from a 5-color list. For non-staples, we mentioned the Memory's Journey and Turn the Earth, but we've got Entomb, which is in the deck for the same reasons as Gamble. We've got a few new cards with Born Upon a Wind and Cosmic Rebirth. Both of these are really cool new additions to the format, and they enable instant speed or end-step breaches, whether we're setting it up for the next turn or we're doing it in our upkeep. We have a very low-to-the-ground deck, so Ad Nauseam is one of our avenues to victory. It's worth noting though, I would probably cut it in an open decklist situation, as we almost never have a critical mass of blockers and people will start targeting us real quick. Intuition is another easy one. It's another 1-card win con with Breach. Crop Rotation is a great card in the deck, as we can cheat out a tabby and throw everyone's plans into chaos. And lastly, Muddle the Mixture is our final tutor for Oath of Druids, but it also gets a large number of other key cards: Loam, Curse Totem, Torpor Orb, Nullrod, and Stony Silence. Artifacts are a tricky one for this deck. We've included the typical one-shot and premium fast mana. Mox Diamond only sneaks in due to its downside being significantly lower with Life from the Loam. Other than that, we've discussed the stacks pieces previously, but we have Imposter Mech as the only other artifact. This card is quite interesting due to its flexibility. It's got all the usual upsides of a clone, being a dockside or a beta when needed, but it also works through Humility for a number of creatures. Some of the magical Christmas land scenarios that you only get in this deck would see you having Humility in play and you target your opponent's 1/1 Elesh Norn, which will then wipe the board as it enters as a non-creature with Elesh Norn's abilities. Other functionality includes using Praetor's Grasp to find your opponent's Thoracle, then casting the mech as a copy of their Thoracle that will actually work through Humility. These are obviously niche cases, but the specific added synergy is fantastic upside in an already very functional card. Outside of our commander, our enchantment package is our primary dockside fuel. We've covered most of these already, but further, we've got Wild Growth, Sylvan Library, and all of the fishies. We've also got Touch the Spirit Realm and Dress Down, which are recurable from the graveyard with Go-Shintai for the most inefficient cantrip in history, or temporary alleviation from a Drannith Magistrate or similar effect. Our mana base is straightforward. We've got blue lands, rainbow lands, channel lands, which we can get back with Loam. Chasm is great when our opponents work out the player removal is going to be their best option. Urborg and Yavimaya are there to provide a little bit of extra fixing, or to give our utility lands mana abilities. And lastly, we have Forbidden Orchard, which lets us give a creature to our opponent in the scenarios where there's been a board wipe or similar, ensuring our ability can resolve. And with that, we've covered the full deck. This list hasn't had any major success to date, but it's felt like a solid concept. The way it weirdly skirts around, stacks pieces in an interesting way. The pieces that do tend to hurt other decks way more than us, with the exception of Blood Moon though. There may be a world where we use the new land cyclers to hedge against this in the future, but this would obviously push up our average mana value for Adnors. If you're still with us at this point, thanks for checking out the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.